Hello, Colts Nation. What's up, No Horsing family, baby? Welcome back to an episode of the NoHorsingAround podcast. As always, we are two dudes talking Colts tonight. Not one of two. Two dudes talking Colts tonight. We're your hosts, Steven and Zach. And I'm almost giddy because I feel like it's been too long since we've been on together.
Yeah, man. I mean, for sure. We just got things going. Off season's got crazy, hectic. Has some family issues come up as well. But dude, it's always so cool. And yeah, I was thinking about this before we got on, Steven. This is the last podcast that we'll do before we officially kind of start season 2 of the No Horsing Around podcast. Because this time last year, we were having a conversation about making the No Horsing Around podcast. A year later, and we have a YouTube channel. We have over 1,000 followers, and we have some unbelievable, people who just are always in our chat room, always talking to us. And what a good feeling it's been to kind of go on this journey with you, but not just that, but like get to meet so many of these unique people. So today, I guess, obviously it's draft season. It's live. We need to talk about some of this draft. We're only going to do, guys, rounds 2 and 3. But would love to get your feedback as it goes down the line. And then Steven's going to have a segment. We're going to talk about just some storylines off season as far as just narratives and everything like that. So Steven, I'll let you stay on the main screen. I'm going to hop over here to the mock draft simulator, and I'll just keep yapping my big mouth. So we are going to simulate all the way to pick 42, and we will see what we have. May the odds ever be in our favor.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm interested, like you were saying too, tonight-wise for us, we're going to go for a while because we want to get as many people in here as we can and kind of have a good discussion back and forth and see what everyone thinks about not only what we're picking, but what you guys think. Drop that in the comments. Let us know what you guys are thinking the pick might be.
So, very interesting. Obviously, at 42, 2 positions of mine, Steven, that are going to be, prevalent. I would say wide receiver would be 1A, left tackle would be 1B. And I think if it comes down to it, if you listen to the last, with the next pick, the Colts edition, if all parties are equal, if we're equal as far as talent, wide receiver, tackle, I think he takes a wide receiver. That being said, there could be some real unique talents left, over in this draft. Let's slide over here and let's see what they've got in the tackle room as well. So you've got an Abram Lucas is probably the best of the crop there. And then we'll go wide receiver. And there's one guy that I know Colts Nation is just flipping out about. The only caveat I would say to this is, and I'm going to be a little bit picky here because I want to get it right, I want to see if there is still that tight end right there on the board. Very, very intriguing. I'll tell you my thoughts on this, Steven, and you can kind of pipe in here in a second. If it falls this way, I'm not 100% sure that we pick at 42. We may trade back. Trey McBride would be a very, very interesting guy. We had a pod last week with Bring the Juice. Greg Dolchik, Derek loves him, and I've kind of got on board with that as well. But that being said, I think there's one player in particular left on this board that we are going to draft, and that would be one Christian Watson. Lock it in. Indianapolis Colts 42nd pick in the NFL draft. I'll just slide back over and have a conversation. What are your thoughts on Christian Watson? Just in general. I mean, come on, man.
I like it. I do. I mean, and the interesting part for me was looking where you were at and looking who was still on the board. I think that's the biggest debate that I've had is I don't even think it's a matter of who anymore. I think it's a question of do they trade back or not, like you were saying. Obviously, in a lot of the simulators, you you may not do the trade backs and do the things like that, but it's going to be really interesting to see kind of what they do. I like that. A name that piqued my interest. Where did he go? Calvin Austin from Memphis.
Okay.
He piques my interest. He's a little lower, but he was in there too. That was a name that, like, if you traded back, could you potentially still get him?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, watching for the next pick, like all Colts Nation does, it sounds to me, listening to Ballard in there at least, that he wants more picks. I don't know if that means trading back from 42 or trading back later, but if I have a hard time not wanting him, you know what I mean? Like, I'm good with that pick. I think he complements Pittman well. The other part too is I think Frank can say it. He can come out, and Ballard can come out and say it and be like, hey, we love the wide receiver room, but they're not going to come out and say they don't. You want to give as much confidence to these guys as you can, but you've got to upgrade. And the worry, you said it, is Ballard great at finding value? Yes, but now it's time to and he's filled the roster out with really talented players. Yeah. Now it's time to find your high-end players, and you're not getting those in the third and fourth round most of the time. This is the spot where you're going to have to do it. And I mean, I like the idea. I think I've heard a couple other people talk about he's a little more raw than what we initially have talked about.
Yeah, I'll go into critiquing him here in a second, but I'd be interested. Jeff hopped on. He had a comment. He says Watson will be gone. I tend to agree with Jeff, but the simulator had him on the board. He was the best player available in my estimation. I'd be interested just to see what Jeff thought, who he would like there at 42. It'd be interesting to see just what Colts Nation, the way they feel about it, who's their favorite prospect there at 42. Kind of the rundown with Watson is this, though. Tall, long, athletic, physical, but he has drop issues, right? Mm-hmm. But here's what I would say to Colts Nation on this. Chris Ballard has always kind of been okay with guys who have a little bit of a drop issue. If you remember last year, Colin Granson, what was his knock? He dropped the football a little bit too much. Eric Ebron dropped the football a little bit too much. Paris Campbell even fell a little bit in that draft. He was a great athlete, but he dropped a couple passes there at Ohio State. So I think that's one quality that Chris Ballard will forego. I think he feels like it's a teachable trait. But what's not teachable is a guy who's that tall and can run that fast and get that open. And we know more than anything in the world, Chris Ballard loves him some Senior Bowl guys, right? And Christian Watson, I mean, he certainly showed out there. Mm-hmm. So I can see it happening. He's probably the last of the real good crop, and then it kind of falls off a little bit, and then you have this next tier. Jeff says he wants Bernhard Raimann. Bernhard Raimann is a guy, honestly, as you look at the boards, as you kind of read things, see the tea leaves, all the rumors coming out, he's a guy actually that might be there. I would have never dreamed that 3 weeks ago that he would have even fell to the second round. But a guy who's shooting up and going this way, Tyler Smith, and I think Raymond's backpedaling a little bit just because he hasn't played as much football. I think that's one of the issues with him. But hey, that dude's a mauler, man. If you want to go watch somebody just knock somebody out, just go watch him play football. I mean, him and Quentin Nelson together would literally obliterate everybody on the left side. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. So interesting, man. Interesting take. And I think that, if you were to get a guy like a Raymond, if you were to get a guy like, I think, Abraham Lucas was on there when we did the sim a second ago. Don't think that he's quite to that level at 42. He's a guy you could trade back and probably still get and then gain an extra pick. Jeff says, think Eric Fisher 2.0. I don't know that I like the sound of that, honestly. I mean, if you give me Eric Fisher with the Chiefs, I'll take that.
Well, here's a question for you, Zach, too, though, and for Jeff, is we just recently brought in, I'm trying to remember who it was. The name is escaping me for a second. It was an offensive tackle. Why am I spacing? Kelly.
Yeah.
Does the fact that we could maybe potentially sign that, does that affect the need on the O-line to where is the need there greater than the need at wide receiver? I think the need is greater at wide receiver at this point than the line itself, especially if you're bringing in another veteran tackle who can play, and we know he can play. I think it lessens that need. I really think, we're going to talk about the offseason later too, is that I really think he's done a great job, Ballard has, of setting himself up to who's the best player. Like, I know everyone talks about best player available, but I really think he has set the Colts up well to look at it and go, we're not drafting for need at this point necessarily. We're going to take the best player on the board.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's, not a, another
name that's been on my mind the last 2 days. Like, what if? They're just like a complete what if. Not sure it would happen, but what's Ballard do if like a David Ojabo falls to us at 42, like a guy who would have been a clear top 15, top 20 pick had he not had that injury on his pro day? Like, I say no. I say he's not going to go for a guy who's injured again like 3 years in a row, although he's done it in the past, and I think he feels pretty good about that group now. But just imagine adding another guy like that and having three like just incredible pass rushers, and then you include Dio on a season after he's rehabbed. That might be something. It'd be just interesting to see what Ballard did if that was the situation. Jeff's right. Ballard loves the trenches.
He does.
I mean, my man loves the trenches, and so do I.
And he's not bashful about it.
Yeah, and one thing you brought up a great point too, Steven. Last year, right before the draft, what did Chris Ballard do? He brought in Eric Fisher, but did not sign him. Right? Draft comes by. We go about 3 days down the road. Eric Fisher's back in town, and all of a sudden, bam, you got a tackle. Might feel like that's what he's just done with, he's done his research. He wants to see where he stands as far as financials and all of that with Kelly coming in. Gives him a good insurance policy, a swing tackle. I think he really is going to give Pryor a shot. However, if an elite left tackle or a guy he feels like can be very, very good for us is there at 42, I don't think that stops him necessarily from doing that. But, Ballard always does something different than we expect him to do anyway. So I would say either A, he's going to trade pick 42 anyways, or B, he's just going to go rogue and pick a defensive player. And we're all just going to be like, what?
What are you doing? What's happening?
But he told us, he kind of said it. He's like, everybody's going to go crazy if I draft 2 defensive players on day 2. And everybody's thinking, oh boy, is he just like kind of alluding to what's going to happen? But that's interesting. I'm going to flip over here and pick this 3rd round pick. I'm going to look around. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to see right before our pick was Greg Dulcich. That would have been a awesome. Now you've got some guys. I don't know. I mean, you've got Jelani Woods and James Mitchell, and then you've got Ruckert. So you've got a grouping of 3 that are pretty good there at tight end. Ruckert is just he will block anybody. He's probably the best pass blocker when it comes to tight end.
Hey, Zach, just for giggles, show me the wide receivers too.
I'm going to go through wide receivers, and I'm going to go through tackles again. So wide receivers. So now we're down. I mean, your guy, you talk about Calvin Austin.
It's a lot of speed.
David Bell's a guy who we all know around here. I think he actually falls to day 3. He just had a terrible pro day. He was very slow.
That's another guy below David Bell that I really like, but you're talking day 3 is Wandale Robinson.
Man,
being down here in the South and watching him play.
He is
fast. That guy's a spark plug.
He is fast. He is electric. This is kind of where you
quarterback for a little while.
Yeah. And then you got Alec Pierce, a guy who Chris Ballard's had a chance to see a lot, just not being very far away. Let's go look at – let's see what's left out there at tackle. So you got Salyer, who's pretty good. And then clear it out and let's just see best available. All right, we're gonna get off of this. So you've got obviously I don't think they're gonna go with an edge guy in this particular. You got Salyer. I don't think they take a quarterback. It might be a little rich at the moment. But I'm going to be honest with you. I think he wants to upgrade the tight end room. I think he wants to get more talented, and he wants to get a pass catcher. So I am actually going to select Jelani Woods, tight end. And that's it.
I mean, I don't hate it. I don't hate him.
Not my favorite pick. Not my favorite pick. The way the board kind of fell right there. Not my absolute favorite pick. Look at PFF trying to get some free advertisement there on us, guys.
They can pay. We'll gladly accept.
Well, there you go. We go 2 pass catchers. They give me a D- and a C for my value, but that's obviously their rating. What's up, Moby? Man, in a pinch right there. I'll be honest with you. Pro Football Focus's simulator is probably not as good for me to use as like the Draft Network, but it's easier, cleaner for the people on here to actually see it. So I thought I'd just use that one, which was a little bit easier to screen share, so a little less clunky. So
yeah, there
you go. I mean, you go out and you get 2 pass catchers. You fill a need at tight end. You fill a need at wide receiver. You've got a couple young guys. I know the Jelani Woods didn't get a great grade, but that being said, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, what does he want? I mean, he wants guys who can be unique, rare, unique talents, and it just seems like that would be a guy he would at the very least look at, and maybe probably even another trade back scenario. If he doesn't trade at 42, trade back there and then recoup something later, in the draft as well. So
see that one doesn't surprise me as much because I could see them the grade that they gave to the Watson pick. That
well, they're not.
I don't agree.
But to be fair, he's going to get that on there because their grading system, Watson's about 20 spots lower in their grading system than on the consensus, honestly. So Watson's much higher across the board, but he's not as high with them just because they don't value, a guy who drops the ball like he loses a lot in their grading system. So I think that's probably the explanation.
Yeah, it's interesting. Hey, I want to do one thing real quick. I want to kind of like do a little interjection here really quickly. For all you guys who are in the chat, thank you guys. Spread the word, get more people in. We want more people. We're going to be on here for a little while because we want to connect with you guys again. And there is, I'm just saying this because this is the first time we've gone live since we passed that mythical 1K, which we're approaching 1.3, which is crazy.
Yes,
crazy to think. But there's also the ability, if you guys would like, if you guys love us this much in that chat, you guys feel free. There should be something in there to where you can, if you want to pin your question, if you want to donate to the channel, you can do that. It'll pin your question at the top so everybody sees it. So there's little things like that now because we've grown a little bit to where we can experience that. So if you guys want to do that, it's welcomed. And like I said, if you're watching this on YouTube, share it. Let's get some more Colts Nation in here. Let's just kind of have a little chat here.
Absolutely, man. So I guess to wrap up the draft talk, Steven, I think you made a great point earlier. He could possibly take best player available. I think all cards are out there. The likelihood of him trading in this draft is probably very good, honestly. I think he would like to have more like 9 or 10 picks versus the 7 that he has. That being said, I mean, I think if the right guy falls to him at 42 And I think he's going to be in a little bit of a spot because I think it's right on the cutoff of all your really, really good wide receivers. I mean, when you talk about, obviously Drake London, Olave, Garrett Wilson, those guys are not going to be there. A guy who I would just lose my mind for would be a Sky Moore. That would be really cool, man, if Sky Moore ended up, falling to us. But I don't know. I mean, I think there's a good chance that Watson actually is available right around that pick. But as Jeff said earlier, I think he probably gets nabbed at the front end of that second round. So we'll see.
Well, interesting thing too with the draft, it's the draft. It's we're both going to be watching it tomorrow. Yeah. And we've always said too, I don't think we're going to do anything with it. We enjoy the ability to also remain fans and to kind of have our reactions and not necessarily be worried about how you guys see them. You guys see our immediate reactions after games and things like that. But all of ColtsNation is still going to watch because is there still this like slight possibility that Ballard could fall? There's a player and he wants to jump up. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as hard. We've talked about it. It's not as hard where they're sitting because of the trade and getting a little bit of a higher second round pick to move back in. Honestly, I think there's only one pick, one kind of thing that would send like shockwaves at this point would be if they took a quarterback. I mean, I would be stunned at this point, no matter who drops. We know they have people they like. Me and you have talked about it, that if he likes someone, he has said he'd go get them. I would just be shocked because, I honestly, we've not had a chance to really discuss it, but I think they look at Matt Ryan as a 2 to 3 year quarterback, honestly. And I think they're looking at next year is where they're really going to go for it.
100%. I couldn't agree more when it comes down to that. I think they will let him play as long as he wants to play, as long as he's playing at the a high enough level. And it'll be like a yearly check-in, like, hey, where are you at? How much time do you think you got? I think when he's getting closer to the end of his rope or his talent level starting to dive a little bit, I think that's where you see him dive in there and get their future guy. But I don't think this year will be the year. Jeff also mentioned, Mechie in the third. You could do far worse than that in the third, honestly. Like, that wouldn't be a bad pick at all. I mean, he is, Williams kind of overshadowed him there at Alabama, but I mean, he's still a pretty talented receiver in his own right.
Yeah. I mean, and he's one that I've liked. Obviously, the hesitancy with him is he also blew his knee out. He did it earlier than Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams is also still being discussed as a top 10 pick, which is mind-blowing for me. Even my buddy Adam, who's the big-time Bama fan, he's shocked that they're talking about him still as a top 10 pick.
I think he goes 8, honestly. I think the Falcons will draft him at 8 because they're not in win-now mode, and they have the time and the opportunity to let him just come in, play football, and then they've got Kyle Pitts, and they've got this guy, and they've got 2 really good pass catchers, and then next year try to land their quarterback of the future. I mean, I think that's the plan all along. So
I want to say one more thing about the draft, because I would love to hear from the people in the chat, and I want to hear from you too, Zach. Is one of the funniest things I saw was what could be one of the biggest impact moves to affect the Colts in the draft. And a lot of people are going to say, hey, if they can get a Christian Watson or somebody drops, like Olave happens to drop or something like that. The best one that I heard was if the Titans, and this is for you specifically, Zach, because I know how much you love them. If the Titans were to swing and miss on a quarterback early, there's a lot of talk of a guy they really like. And I've kind of gone on record with my Titans friends. I think there's a real potential they take a quarterback where they're sitting right now.
Wow.
I really do. And I think it's Desmond Ridder.
Thought about that, honestly. Like, I've never thought that that's what they were going to actually do. But interesting. Yeah. I mean, if they draft him, I hope he sucks. But that's all I can hope for, when it comes to the Titans.
He's not the next Elway.
Yeah. I hope he's a really, really bad.
Really mediocre quarterback.
Really, yeah, below average, mediocre quarterback. So yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're in win now mode. I think they're still in this small little window with Tannehill, even though he hasn't gotten them over the hump. And they're kind of in, quarterback purgatory, where it comes down to they know they've got a guy who's good enough to win. He's obviously done that. He can get them in the playoffs. But with the way the AFC looks right now, if you don't have just a very, very good, quarterback, a guy who has the arm talent to push the ball up and down the field, game in and game out, probably going to be in trouble, honestly.
And someone said that too for the Colts and the Titans. I think it was McAfee today was talking about it. It's going to be interesting because those two are the blueprints for can you win with a good quarterback, but not an elite quarterback, but a very elite running game. So we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out.
Here's Matt. He says he hopes that the Titans don't take Ritter.
Now the question for Matt is: do you not want him because you don't want him? You don't want to root against him? Do you like Ritter? So you don't want to root against him?
I think Ritter has a chance if he sits behind someone. I think Ritter has a chance of being one of the best two, maybe the best quarterback in this class, honestly, from a leadership standpoint, just what he can do with his legs, his arm as well. I think Malik Willis is the unknown boom or bust, right? Like he's either going to be really, really good or he's going to be really, really bad. But with Malik Willis, I think, I've always put it like this when you evaluate him. His floor is his feet. His ceiling is his arm. So if it's his ceiling, that arm turns out. But he said, I just want to see Tannehill in Tennessee for another decade. Matt,
man, I hate to break it to him. I live in Tennessee.
Hey,
listen, man, that guy's not going to get out of next year.
Sorry to get sidetracked, but Matt is we love him, man. We follow his podcast. If you guys haven't had a chance to hop over and check his stuff out, Inside the Horseshoe Podcast, do it. He's been on the show. He did one of our, draft season kind of things that we did. It was cool to have him on here.
Great show, by the way.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. Tannehill to Tennessee for another decade. I could live with it, man. Like I think I could live with it. I don't because he's just above average. Like he's not terrible. He's not great. He's just above average. And you always feel like with him in the division, you have a chance to win the division. Like you have a shot to actually get out and win that division. So it'd be very interesting. Matt, who's your final? Just put it in the chat. Who is your final? Who'd you pick at 42 in your final mock? I haven't had a chance to watch yet, so I'm just very curious.
While he types, holy crap. Can I point something out? We have to point him out.
Let's do it.
Herbicide is okay. So for those who are new to the show, who have joined the family recently, game 1 of 2021 was against the Seahawks, obviously. Our boy Herbicide came into the chat, into a hostile environment, and he was hostile. Yeah. He was chippy.
Hey,
but he has stuck around all season into the offseason. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. How cool is that, man? I mean, just awesome to see him in there. Hey, since you're here and since you're checking in on us anyways, who are you going to pick at 9, man? I mean, who do you want?
You want Baker? You still want? Do anybody want Baker in Seattle?
Yeah, give him Baker.
Or is it really lock time?
Yeah, give him Baker, man. Hey, you got Jahan Dotson, Matt. Man, I'm telling you right now, Jahan Dotson, don't think he'll be there, but if he's there, if he would have been there on the board that I got in the simulator, I probably would have picked him. But yeah, not a bad pick. I've heard, and I'm curious if anybody in the chat has heard this as well. Yeah, I've heard that Pickens is really like red flagged on a lot of teams here, like the last 2 or 3 days, like just off field stuff. If that's the case, I'm not so sure that Ballard's going to mess with that, especially being with his very first pick in the draft. So George Pickens for me, hearing he could slide, man. I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see Colts Nation lose their mind if he's on the board and we don't pick him there, because he's.
So what are some of the red flags that are coming up? I've seen
think
that. I've tried to do a little bit more.
I think it's mostly just attitude things. He's been suspended. I think there was an incident like in a spring game where he got in a fist fight with the teammate.
Well, I know there was the one where he got into the fist fight with the guy from Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
like everyone knows, I live in the South. I saw that he threw the dude into the barrier. It was no joke. But is that the off-field concern? Is kind of maybe attitude issues for him?
I think so. Obviously I'm not an insider. I don't know. I'm not that close to it, but just from kind of listening around and hearing what I've heard he's got a little bit, but that could also be smoke for a team who's like dying to get him in the first round and just wants him to fall a little bit further. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that.
Herbside, we love you. I'm just joking. You weren't hostile. You were great.
Herbside, you were all right, man.
We love you.
You were definitely all right. So, let's see. Matt says, all I've seen about him is he needs to grow up. Maybe Ballard thinks he can help Pickens out. Hey, he did pick Marcus Peters when he was in KC, and that was the off-field issues, like uber talent, but had these off-field issues. So I'm not going to close the door on it. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen.
Do you feel, Zach, though, that the wide receiver room is complete enough to try to do that? I mean, you're talking at this point, the most veteran wide receiver is Paris Campbell. If we don't bring back a TY, there's not a ton of veteran leadership in that room. I mean, Pittman is Pittman. I mean, I think he could straighten somebody out, but it's still a really young room.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting. We'll see. I mean,
I like his fire. I don't know. I liked Baker Mayfield too, though. So what can I say?
That debate, is what it is. Let's transition into the next half of the podcast, Stephen. I'll let you kind of take it away, and we'll just kind of go back and forth and answer those questions. And obviously, if you guys are in the chat, pipe up. We're here for you guys. Let's have a good time.
Yeah. So me and Zach have yet to be able to be on the same show, which for you guys to know. I don't know if it'll be live or not, but look for something from the two of us on the same show. I think we're targeting every Wednesday of the off season at the minimum. Y'all know we dropped the little ones here and there about big breaking news or something new, but the next half really is we've not had a chance. You've heard from me, you've heard from Zach. We've not had a great chance to talk with each other on air and with Colts Nation about some of what's gone on during the off season. Some of the moves, maybe things we liked, maybe things we didn't like. And so we kind of want to delve into that. And with everybody who's in the chat or everybody who's watching who wants to get into the chat, feel free to ask questions. We'll try to answer. And we love that. That's happened before. We love answering questions. We love talking with you guys. So if you've got questions, bring them in too about the off season. And let's just kind of have a fun back and forth.
Heck yeah. So you fire away with your first question of the offseason. What's the burning question in Stephen Burton's head?
I mean, for me, I think for me, it begins and ends with what do we think we're going to get from Matt Ryan? What to expect? I mean, like I said, everybody knows I live in Tennessee. I live 30 minutes south of Nashville. I live surrounded by Titans fans, and I've heard all sorts of people, including my 17-year-old nephew, who said he is washed and he is not scared, including my coworkers who said they would have been more frightened of the Colts had they traded for Baker Mayfield. And I was in the camp. I'll be perfectly honest. Everyone has seen my videos. I liked the idea of Baker. Now, 20-foot view and stepping back and seeing more come out, I'm loving from the moment he stepped off the plane and went into that press conference. That is my man crush, man, is Matt Ryan. That dude, just how professional he is, and kind of rewatching tape, he looks good. But I think, do you get more from him than you got from Carson? Are you going to make the playoffs? because I think everyone can say, like, you go, you make that move, and let's pair. There's other moves obviously we'll talk about, but does that put you over the hump? Does it get you? Do you win the division? Like, I think so much rides on how does he play and how does he look.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think he is obviously he's a big step up from what we have with Carson. I think he gives us the ability to do things that we just couldn't have done. He gives Frank Reich that trust, in big crucial moments for him to go out there and make the plays and just trust that he's gonna do the right thing. But when you couple that with what they've done on the defensive side of the ball, sneakily they've gotten a lot better in that defensive backfield with heading with Gilmore. But then you got Yannick, you got an actual legitimate, a guy who we've always talked about on this podcast that we really like is Rick Venturi. We call him, looking for, ambient players, guys who keep you up at night. Well, Yannick's a guy who keeps you up at night. Like, he's an ambient player. You got to have a plan for him. If you don't have a plan for Yannick, he's going to destroy you. He's going to go out there and have 2 or 3 sacks on you if you don't have a really, really good plan. So, yeah, I mean, I think it all starts and stops with Matt Ryan, but you have a great run game. I'm interested to see how this offensive line is together. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm maybe not nervous, just a little bit. Like I pause a little bit. Like, I don't know what to fully expect yet. When you go around and you start changing things a little bit, I don't know what to fully expect yet. But I got a lot of trust in, our offensive line coach and our unit and just, our evaluators. I do think all along, like Danny Pentner he was gonna be a starter at some point. They loved him.
Yeah,
so
they like him a ton.
Yeah, he was gonna find a way to get on that field for him. So yeah, I mean that'll be interesting as well. Matt says, I think Matt Ryan is definitely not washed. He still has the arm to throw 50 yards if you need him to. Get the ball out fast. I think he gets 4,000 to 4,500 yards this season. I think that's probably fair. Going for 30 touchdowns? You think Matt Ryan throws 30 touchdowns? I think
so.
Yeah, I think so.
Carson threw 27 and left a ton out there. I think he can do it. I mean, the more I've watched, the more I see, the more excited I am. I think I told you right before we came on. Obviously, for those who had no clue, he was on Pat McAfee today. And dude sounds healthy, and you start realizing he's not really been hurt, knock on wood, his entire career. He's stayed healthy. He's looked good. He's comfortable with what he's at. And man, did you hear them talk today about it's very reminiscent of Phillip Rivers there. He gets the ball out quick. I think that helps with the O-line, the concerns with the O-line. I think he's going to get the ball out quicker, obviously, than Carson did. I think he's going to be very reminiscent of Rivers. And you hear him, too, talk about, dude is almost literally another coach on the field. So, yeah. I mean, I feel good about it. And a great question, kind of a piggyback for you, too, is, Zach, and for everybody is, and Jeff, we'll get to your question here in just a minute, man. So stay tuned. But a question would be, we heard a lot about look at the receivers' numbers with Rivers and look at the drop-off like Hines had with Carson. What's it going to look like? Because there's a lot of blame that got put onto Carson for not hitting these receivers and not hitting, open receivers and getting the ball to them and things like that. What's it going to look like with what a lot of people are going to say is the more adult quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with that. I just think that thanks for hopping in here, Colton. I just think you've got a better decision maker when it comes to it. That being said, he's still going to have talent around him, right? Like, you got to surround him with capable playmakers, and you just got a lot of unknowns. I know Ballard would like to let some of those young guys mature, play, get out on the field, see some reps. But at the end of the day, you've got to have somebody who lines up opposite of Michael Pittman Jr. and gives you a real chance. If we learned anything, from the playoffs this year, the teams that had multiple wide receivers, multiple options, they won and advanced in the playoffs. I mean, that's just how it went. Because you can't shut down just one guy if you've got the other guy, if you've got another weapon. Hell, I mean, Cincinnati had 3 weapons, and really tight end, I mean, they had 4. Plus Joe Mixon out the backfield. They had so many different guys. To kind of segue into Jeff's question as well, do we bring T.Y. back? I think so. I think we will end up bringing him back ultimately. On a very cheap deal with the understanding that, hey, you're going to be a nice veteran voice. When we go 4 wide, we can have an opportunity to get you on the field. We can do some unique things with you. You still have the speed to play the game and the mind to play the game. But I don't think that stops us necessarily from drafting one because you got to think about it. A second-round pick being drafted is not necessarily going to be a guy who's going to come out and is going to be instantaneously, a home run. You look at Michael Pittman Jr., he developed into what he was into year 2. We all saw it. We saw flashes of it, but he wasn't a guy who was out there catching, 70, 80, 90 catches. And, guys in the second round just typically don't do that, but they will develop into very, very good wide receivers if you get the guy with the right skill set. So I think T.Y. would be great. You pair him, you got Reggie Wayne in there. It's kind of time to pass that baton a little bit. I think it's already been passed to Pittman, but you want to get somebody out there that can really help. But like I said, not even going to be surprised if the Colts get 2 pass catchers, whether that be 2 wide receivers or a wide receiver and tight end. I think they come out of this draft with 2 pass catchers, man. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's not going to shock me draft-wise if they go extremely heavy on the offensive side of the ball this year, more than we've ever seen Ballard go that way. As far as T.Y. goes, I think at this point, the longer it takes, the longer it is that he goes unsigned, I think the probability of him returning to Indianapolis is even higher. I think it becomes even higher that he's coming back because there's what sticks in my head all the time, Zach, is what was it? Jacoby's year. So 3 years ago, is that right? Yeah, three seasons, somewhere around there. Where at the end of the year, Ballard discussed the need that one of the issues he had was letting go of veteran leadership. He had gotten rid of several veterans on defense, and they didn't have that edge. I think he has learned from that too. I think the idea of having a veteran leader, like I agree with you. I think they're going to come out probably 2 receivers and a tight end out of this draft. I think it's really possible. But I think he knows he has to have a veteran in there, and of who's available. We've heard the rumors about Jarvis Landry wanting $20 million. Obviously, that's never happening. But I think he values T.Y. differently than everybody else. T.Y. is such a locker room presence. You watch the behind-the-scenes stuff, you hear him speak, even now, too. I mean, and for me, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, what is he, 300 yards shy of 10,000?
Yeah.
Something really short, and that puts him in rarefied air.
He should retire a Colt, and I think he should get 1 more year. Go out.
I mean, I could see it. I do think wherever he ends up, if he's a Colt or he's somewhere else, I do think this is his last year.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, let's hope that he has a great year, and let's hope he comes back to be a Colt. That'd be cool. Landry's not worth $20 million. I'll agree with that. Colton, who do you want to draft, man? We'd be interested to see, who you want to bring back. I know you mentioned that you bring back T.Y. strictly for a locker room leadership. If he produces on the field, it's a bonus. 100% could not agree with you any more than that. Steven, what other burning questions do you have before we hop off here? I'm thinking about 2 more questions, and then maybe if the fans want to throw one out there as well, and we'll wrap this thing up.
So here you go. I thought about this. I thought about this long and hard, and it's not a burning question, but it's a question I'm curious to get your take and everybody else's take. In my opinion, the Colts have made 3 massive moves this offseason, right? They've traded for their quarterback. They traded for a proven edge rusher. And they didn't trade, but they went out and they signed a lockdown number 1 corner, okay? So my question really is, which of those 3 is kind of the biggest and will have the most, I don't want to say impact because it's quarterback, but in your mind, which one of those three was the biggest of all? You know what I mean? Like what are we looking at? Like, because you're looking at Yannick. I'm gonna give a little, like, you look at Matt Ryan's quarterback, obviously. Yannick is a 10 plus sack guy, and me and you have talked repeatedly about we have not had that. And now you're going to put him on a line with Kwity Paye, Dio Dangbo, DeForest Buckner. Like, it's a loaded line. But then now we finally have what we've not had, which is that proven number one corner who just 2 years ago was the defensive player of the year. So they're all three massive signings. I'm interested to hear what each person thinks. What was the biggest one? What in your mind? What was the one that was like, oh,
yeah. Well, I think ultimately I look at Matt Ryan because it's the most it's the most important position in football. Ultimately, all three were just major signings. But I mean, you got to have a quarterback. Nothing else really matters. I think we had a damn good football team last year. We just didn't have a quarterback, and you see the result of that, mediocrity at its finest. Want to say a shout out to Brian, man. He always follows every freaking thing we do in YouTube. And this dude, he said he hopped on late, but my man,
we're still here, bud.
Yeah, my man is with us. He is definitely a part of the No Horsing Around family, and we're so glad he's here and he got a chance to hop in here at the end. I think Jeff asked if Hot Rod's still going to be the kicker next year. Like, he wants to know, like, is Hot Rod still going to be the kicker? I don't know. I mean, I think it's the same thing. Kicking competition, whoever wins. It's that simple. I could go either way with it. I think Hot Rod's all right. I think in moments of big moments, I think sometimes he's not always the most clutch kicker. And I think that's been a little bit of what's rubbed Chris Ballard the wrong way. Like, if you ask him to go out there and just make, in the second quarter, no pressure, no nothing, he's going to make 9 out of 10 of those. But when it comes down to the pressure moments and when it comes down to kicking 50-plus yard field goals, which, a lot, let's be honest, most game winners at the end of the games come down to about 47, 48 yards and then out all the way up to 60 yards. If you can't make those field goals on, at least your fair share, you're probably not going to stick around. Domo Wiggly says Yannick was his number one of the three big signings. I tell you what, man, you could talk about all three, honestly. Like, they are all three major in their own right. This is by far Chris Ballard's most active and best offseason because he picked his guys and he got them. He didn't just go out there and sign each and everybody who was on the market and overpay for everybody. He picked the guys and then he got them. He went and I think Ryan kind of fell into his lap. We want to thank Deshaun Watson, for kind of putting things out publicly, having that opportunity. He basically pulled the carpet and the rug out from underneath the feet of Arthur Blank out there in Atlanta. I think Atlanta thought they had him or they would have never made that stuff public like that. But glad to have Matt. Nomadic Brian says, I think Ryan is the number one. The close games we lost, easily 2 games upswing. We're 11-5. We're battling for the AFC. If we had a quarterback last year, really couldn't agree more. If you want to talk about the meltdowns that we had, like in the Eberflus era, and I know he did a lot of good things. I hate to just trash on him all the time, but in his era, he was just notorious for having these games where quarterbacks had like not good games, legendary games. Like I can never forget the Drew Brees game where Drew Brees basically had one incomplete pass the whole game. Gardner freaking Minshew had
Trevor Lawrence had the career game.
Week
17.
Yeah,
18.
All of these games, and that was with that defense. I'm excited that Gus Bradley has at least admitted that he's going to do some man concepts inside that zone because you got to. Like, there's no other way in the modern day NFL to just sit back there and let these elite quarterbacks who have the ability to run and even extend plays for even longer, you can't ask your cornerbacks to cover like that. So I think that having a little more, man coverage, plus having an actual real bona fide number one edge rusher is going to be a big deal for us moving forward. I think Yannick double-digit sacks. I think let's get the guys in the people in the chat to kind of to pipe up. Over or under combined Kwity Paye, Yannick Ngakoue, over or under 19 sacks next year.
Oh, that is such a good number.
Over or under? We think 11 for Yannick and 8 for Kwity.
Man.
Huh?
I mean, Yannick is regularly what? 10 plus
He's
most
right
times. He's at maybe. I think I looked it up. The year that he split between two teams combined, he still ended up with like 9 sacks.
Yeah.
Man, and I think Kwity makes a big jump. I do. I think. I mean, when you look at that line itself, let's say they double Buckner. Or they double Yannick. Someone's running free.
Under. He takes the under. Here's what I think. I think Yannick's 10 to 12 sacks. I think Kwitty's probably 7. I think 7's the sweet spot for Kwity. Like if he has 8 this year, that's a pretty damn good year for Kwity. I would say that's a pretty damn good year. Yannick.
Does this change your opinion on Kwity, Zach? Having Yannick on the other side now. I know one of the things we talked about was the feeling that Kwity was going to be a very solid defensive player, a very solid pass rusher, but maybe not ever that 12, 13, 14 elite level rusher.
I think
having somebody paired with him, does that change your opinion a little bit?
I think so. I mean, he was always just a really, really, really good number 2 edge rusher. Like when he develops into his actual position, and he's a fully developed guy. I think that, first of all, he's not a liability in the run. So you've got that going for you. And secondly, he doesn't have this pressure of always going up against the number 1 tackle every single game. And a lot of times when you go against, maybe the second best tackle on the other team, you can beat those guys with just sheer effort and power. So for me, I would say that this is a really good thing. One of the best things could have ever happened to Kwity. Now he can just go back into his natural position and really, really be a very good player. It'll free him up a lot as well.
I've got another piggy for you and for the chat with Yannick. Yannick's on his last year of his deal. Do we foresee them? I mean, you've made that trade. You made the trade. You basically swapped him and Rock. Do we see them at some point probably working on some sort of extension for him? Or could he be a one and done in Indy?
I don't know, man. I mean, that's a great question. I don't know. I think it's performance based. I think they want to see. There's something about him though. Like he keeps bouncing around. You just wonder why this great edge rusher just keeps bouncing around from team to team to team to team. But I guess we're gonna find out. No doubt about it. Nomadic says Gilmore and Ngakoue, and they change the defensive coach, will cut down on those late game day breakdowns. Couldn't agree more. 100%. Jeff Black said over. We put the over under 19 sacks combined for Kwity Paye and Domas. You know what? I gotta agree. I think barely probably hit that 20 mark between the two of them. And that's kind of the magic number that you're going for. I'm thinking like 12 and 8 probably sounds really good to me as far as that go. Almost is a 2-year deal if he does well. Hey, 2-year deal if he does well.
Here's one for you, Zach, too, just for fun as we're just kind of sitting here talking and everything.
Lounging in the recliner right now.
Yeah, just enjoying it. Can we imagine a world where Kwity and Yannick do this season? Can everyone just close your eyes and just picture a world where Buckner is not double teamed on every play? What does that do for his? We're not even talking about what his numbers are going to look like. He's doubled every play.
I think our D line's going to be unbelievable this year.
Honestly. I think it's going to be scary. I think the defense. You're talking about a team with a really above. I think it's top 5 defense. We talked about it last year that they were borderline right there. I mean, call me out if I'm wrong. I think it's going to be a top 5 defense. I really do.
Yep. So
you pair that with a top 5 run game and a quarterback who doesn't make mistakes.
Bro, we got a top 1 run game. Stop with all that. There ain't no top 5. We are the top run game. We have the best run back.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to be unbiased.
People hated on me last year for saying Jonathan Taylor was going to end up being the best running back in the NFL. Sorry, man. It worked out my way in my favor. Let's read through a few of these guys. Yannick, Buckner, Dio, and Pay will be ruthless. Could not agree more. Pay is going to be 8+, Yannick 10+, but over 20 is not a bad bet. Wow. I mean, whew. I don't know what you do if you're an offensive coach, offensive coordinator, and you're game planning for this defensive line. I mean, we've got some real. I mean, we haven't even really mentioned Dio. Like the guy came back injured. He had some moments. He forced a couple fumbles. I think he even had a sack towards the end of the season. But he's not at a full healthy season. Like if you add him in that equation, I mean, you've got 4 bona fide pass rushers on your line on like 3rd and long situations. Like that is a nightmare for people to go up against.
Well, and I wanted to talk about the Herbicide dropped this in here, and I'm loving. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and say this. We had questions, and we were like, well, we might wind up. Y'all keep firing things in here. We'll keep going. Herbicide brought this up earlier, talking about the safety. I think part of it, when we're talking about one, I think obviously they signed McLeod, they signed why am I spacing the safety from Kansas City, the other safety from Kansas City. I think they moved on past Honey Badger. I think he wanted too much money. I also think he might probably end up back in New Orleans anyway. But I think a lot of people, out of sight, out of mind, have forgotten a lot about Julian Blackmon. I mean, I know it's an Achilles. Yeah. I know that it was early in the season that he's not going to be 100%, but I think he's out of sight. Thank you. Armani Watts. Thank you. The name escaped me.
This podcast is brought to you by our statistician, Matt B. from the Inside Horse.
Yes, he's amazing.
Sorry for that little segue. We're back to the regular program.
I think he, out of sight, out of mind. I mean, and Kari was banged up a little bit last year. Here's the thing with the safeties and the corners. This is my opinion. When you have the D-line that what looks like the D-line is going to look like, and they're going to give a quarterback 2.5 seconds to get rid of this ball. Like they're going to give him a short time period. Corners look a lot better when they don't have to cover for 4 seconds.
Yeah. Hey, throw Anthony Simpson stuff up there if you can. I don't know if you can do the Facebook ones or not, but hey, he reminded us and give us a little heat check. Don't forget Big Grove in there. I mean, come on now.
Oh my God.
Show him some love. I mean, we've been talking about all these other guys, but I mean, my gosh, I mean, yeah, I mean, that like that's hard to even get on the field at that point. Like, I mean, you've got all of these guys that, then you've got, they got to keep in mind, they just signed a Tyquan Lewis for, 1 year, $3 million. I mean, he's always talked about, he said, you got to have 8, in the trenches, 2 waves. And I think he's got 2 waves, man. I mean, I really do. Like, I think he actually is finally not just has 2 waves, but he has 2 really good waves. Like, he doesn't have, he doesn't have just a bunch of subs in there in those weird sub packages. He actually has players and athletes that can do what they require them to do to be a successful defense in this system, especially in this. I would say not quite as aggressive on the front end with Gus Bradley, but they're pretty aggressive on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting. I mean, I think this it's another offseason where it proves too, where it's like, man, we really don't know much of anything when it comes to what what Ballard and them are thinking, because you get a week into free agency, me and you are talking going, what the heck, man? What the hell? Like, what's going on? The amount of players that were going out the door, the amount of players that were not coming in the door, and then you just boom. I mean, just home run. I mean, I think you're looking at a minimum of 3 home run moves this offseason that were made.
I couldn't agree
minimum.
More. I'll say this: we've had the best offseason in the NFL this year. I mean, when you
couple
that with McLeod signing, who I think is a sneaky good signing.
Good veteran leadership too.
Oh, I mean, but he's a starter. I mean, you're getting a third starter at that position. You really struggled with those injuries last year, not having that veteran, that real a guy who could actually play football, in more than just limited action. Jeff Black, he asked, do we sign Julio Jones? I'm gonna say no, man. I mean, I like the storyline, but I don't think you go in that direction. Like if you're going to do that, just sign your own. Sign Ty back and be done with it. You're probably going to get the same production, maybe even a little bit more. Steven, you got something to say?
No, so I have not been a proponent for it because I have felt, we watched him in Tennessee this year not be able to get on the field, right? For me, it was like Andre Johnson 2.0, right? Like you just hit a wall. Only thing I'm going to say is to watch Pat McAfee today with Matt Ryan on it and hear the way Matt Ryan spoke about Julio and the things that he did not say and the faces that he made when McAfee would make comments of reaching out and the fact that Matt Ryan has recently spoken with Julio. I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. I'd prefer Ty. I'd prefer keep my own and kind of go with that if you're going to go with that because I don't know how much treads on the tires with Julio.
Yeah, I'm not going to hate it. Let's throw up Domo's question. It's a kind of a good debate. If I'll be honest with you in this scenario, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion. I think I might just go Dotson, honestly. Like I'm a little bit scared after you just watch Watson a lot. I'm a little bit scared with the drops. Like he drops it, but he drops it quite often. That happens more than you'd like, especially against the level of competition that he had to go against. I think Dotson is just like a smooth player that can, really, really turn into being a good pro, like a sneaky good pro. He's so sudden in everything. Like you don't really notice how fast he is, or you don't know how quick he is, or how easily he gets open, or how he is when he catches the ball. He can kind of, get over the top. So for me, I'll probably take Dotson. It's a coin flip though.
Here's one for you with that is, does level of competition enter that debate for you at all?
So the level of competition, you mean as far as
who they played for and who they played against?
Kind of, but here's the thing. Here's the way I've always evaluated it. Here's how I've always been taught. Like Sky Moore doesn't go. He's not in a Power 5 conference. But that being said, probably one of my absolute favorite wide receivers, which I would take. But he's a guy who literally just dominated, his opponents. And if they dominate their opponents and they have all of these traits and then they test out so well, I don't have a problem with them. Now, if they don't dominate their opponents on a week in, week out basis, but they still have this freakish day, I at least pause. I at least ask the question with Watson especially. Man, I've been talking a lot. I'm getting hoarse here, Steven. With Watson especially, I think dropping the football kind of puts him down a little bit. But like we mentioned earlier, Ballard doesn't seem to care about that as much. He probably would prefer a guy who can run that well with that type of size and that type of speed. It is what it is. So.
Oh, really quickly. Holy smoke. Jeff, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Jeff.
That's amazing. Hey, anybody else in there? We talked about it earlier. It's a cool new feature we've got. If you feel the need you like what you're seeing, you can always donate to the channel during these live streams. Jeff, thank you. Jeff is the first person to ever do that for No Horsing Around.
He's literally the first person, which is super, super cool, man.
Yeah, very, very cool. So we're going to go to what he asked.
Exactly. Bernard, so he wants to know Bernard Raymond or Sky Moore. Jeff? Are we talking about Sky Moore? I'm assuming we are. I will take Sky Moore every single freaking time, because here's the deal. Like, Sky Moore's 5'10", so he's a small body. I'm gonna get excited about this. Just the thought and the possibility of him being there at 42. But yeah, Sky, he wants to know about Sky Moore. Perfect. Yeah, me too, Jeff. So Sky Moore is a freak. Like, he's like a thick-bodied receiver, though. He's not a slight receiver for his size. So, like, in comparison with, like, maybe even like a Chris Olave, who's a little bit on the small side, Olave's 2-3 inches taller and weighs 20 pounds, or not 20, but about 18 to 17 pounds less. I mean, when you look at Sky Moore, he's 195 pounds. He catches every single thing that is thrown to him. I mean, literally every single thing. And he led the FBS, I believe, in broken tackles last year for wide receivers, like 26 broken tackles. It was an insane stat. For me, Sky Moore, I mean, honestly, once you get past the initial, Jameson Williams, you get past the Olave, you get past the, Garrett Wilson and Drake London's, Sky Moore's right there, man. Like 100%. Like, I mean, I'm not even, Jeff brings up a great point. Deebo Samuel, I totally agree. Like, you can use him in that way. That's why I don't think that he falls out of the first round, because I think either the Green Bay Packers will snipe him or the Kansas City Chiefs will snipe him. Perfect for their systems. He's exactly what they would want to do. And man, I mean, at the very least, you got a really good wide receiver that's going to catch you 65, 70 balls a year. And at the best, you've got like a souped up, Julian Edelman, honestly, because the guy can play inside. He can play outside. He's a dog, man. And if he's a Colt, I'm going to probably regret saying this, but, I might just like do a podcast and just like take my shirt off and just like run around the block, I mean, like literally, like that's how happy I would be, So,
I mean, I like the Deebo Samuel. I mean, that's interesting. A name that popped in my head as you were talking height wise and people being, he's taller than him, but Rondell Moore was a hot name last year. I mean, height. A lot of times, sometimes it's a number. I mean, you look, he had a great season last year. He had a lot of really big pop moments.
Sky Moore's a little different than Rondell, bro. Like, Sky Moore is actually used as a receiver and not really like I like Rondell. I'm fine with him, but like they just throw Rondell the ball and just like let it get out of his way. But Sky can run routes. Like, he can get open. Like, that's a difference. Like, he's an actual real deal wide receiver. At the very least, he's a wide receiver 2 in the NFL for like 10, 12 years, as long as he's healthy. That's my scoop. Yeah, if Sky Moore's there, run the card in, brother. Run the card in.
That's the one for you right there. That's the one,
sir.
man.
Yes, sir.
That's the one. See, I'd be interested. Here's a question for everybody. I mean, and as we're going, I mean, obviously, Herbicide's bringing up, Deebo going to the Jets, and we've kind of gotten on. Let's see, you can't go on the media reporting the stock rising all receivers. Teams looking for a good fit. Absolutely, Brian. I mean, who fits with one team? What one team is looking for is not what the other team is looking for. I mean, you look, the Chiefs have always had smaller, fast receivers, right?
Yeah.
So a person who fits with the Chiefs doesn't necessarily fit. I think that's why Tyreek Hill probably made a good fit with the Dolphins, because you have that speedy, smaller receiver in Jalen Waddle. That's kind of how they play too. But I mean, and the thing with the receivers, there's so many this season. I don't think I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember who it was. I feel like it was one of the larger ones, but he put a guess at 15. I think it was LeVar Arrington. He put a guess at 15 wide receivers potentially. He said in the first round. I don't think that's possible. I don't think that's really possible. But you could look at 15 to 20 in the first 2 rounds. I mean, it's first 3 rounds. It's such a deep position. I don't think I've seen the transition over the last few years to how pro ready the receivers are. That's the thing too. Very rare. These receivers are coming in, and for the most part, they're contributing almost immediately, and they're reminiscent of like running backs back in the day. Plug, play, and go. And they're so ready and they're so talented and there's so many of them. So I mean it's a kudos to college football too, because you've got guys out of North Dakota State. You've got guys from all over. I mean, they're not Alabama, Georgia. I mean, yes, you have like Jameson Williams and Mechie, and you've got, out of Georgia, you've got Pickens, but you've got a lot of smaller school guys. And I wanted to trace back to something you had said earlier about when I brought up level of competition. I think you hit it on the head. You want a guy who dominates at that level. If you're not dominating the lower level, then I don't think. I mean, I don't honestly. I don't want you. If you're this other level talent and you're playing at one of the lower levels, then you should be dominant. You absolutely should be.
I mean, like if you're lower level, you can't get drafted on traits like that. That's not good enough. Like if you're at the lower level, you got to absolutely week in and week out just ball on everybody.
I mean, you've got the rare occasions of like a Steve McNair back in the day of just the traits that he had and what he did at Alcorn State or Joe Flacco. But even with a Joe Flacco, that's a D1 Pittsburgh player who went down to a D1 AA Delaware. So he had that history with him. But I mean, you look and I think to kind of even piggy with my question with it was, Ballard likes small school guys. Look at some of our best. Darius Leonard, South Carolina State.
100%. Yeah.
T.Y. I mean, it's not Ballard guy, but T.Y. Hilton's Florida International. Like, he's not afraid to go smaller to see what he can find.
Looks like, Brian thinks that we should probably play a rookie all year. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Brian. I mean, if you're going to select a guy in the second round, he needs to start. Like, I mean, that's a starter. I don't care what anybody says. If you're getting picked round 1, round 2 in the NFL, you are expected to play.
And the top pick for the Colts. It's going to be the top pick.
You're going to be the top pick for the Colts. I still say at the end of the day, they either trade that second or that third round pick and regain some more picks later on in the draft. Got 2 picks in the 5th round. That'll be very interesting to see what he does there. Ballard's traditionally been pretty good in the 5th round, honestly. Like he usually hits on those day 3 picks.
Well, he's got a nice little hitch in here too that I want to talk about that I want to get your opinion on too.
All right,
and everybody's. It's Paris Campbell. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, the talent. The thing for me is, I think it's well known on this channel. I love Paris. I do. I love everything that he offers when he's healthy. I love how he looked last year before he got hurt. He had a great relationship with Phillip Rivers 2 years ago that he had built. He was one of the first people you saw working out with Matt Ryan. But I can't trust him at this point to stay healthy. That's the issue. Like, if I could trust him to be healthy, he could be my number 2.
Yeah. I mean, that's
but
fair.
I can't put my trust in it.
Well, I mean, and until he's able to string together, a season where he's healthy, we don't know, right? Like,
what's going to happen, right, Zach? You know what'll happen. He's going to this last year of his contract. He's going to have like this massive season this year, be healthy all year. They're going to resign or someone else will, and he'll be hurt next year.
Got to blow up, doesn't he? Yeah, man. I mean, I just really, really, really hope that he has a really good season. He's just healthy in general, man. I mean, I think he's had a terrible go, in his first few years in the NFL. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. Before we hop off here, Steven, I just want to take a quick second to, thank everybody who hopped on tonight, everybody who commented. I mean, Brian, how cool are you? Jeff, I mean, the very first person to ever, hook us up with that special, that $199 that you sent us. Herbside, cool seeing you. Matt B as well. I mean, Matt, come on, man. I love having you in here. I love you interacting with us. And happy draft season, man. Come on. Here we are. We wake up tomorrow and it's real. The lights come on and we'll all get to speculate and probably won't have a draft pick tomorrow, but on Friday, we will have a draft pick, and yours truly will be doing a reaction to that. So we'll see what that happens, and we'll see how we can go. And this was a fun one, Steven, right?
Yeah, I mean it's always fun. We talked about it. We haven't gone live in a while.
Yeah.
And getting to talk to everybody again,
So
getting
cool.
to hear from Herbicide, like it's a great time for us. And if you were in the chat, if you're still in the chat and you're not subscribed, please make sure that you subscribe. We're kind of we always have, we're very goal oriented here. Like as soon as we hit 1K, in our minds we were on to 2. Like that's the next goal. And so everybody who joins the family, like we love it. We'll probably, I mean, we're big as we get closer to things that we can do.
Yeah.
We're big. We'll do more giveaways like we've done. We've given away tickets. We've given away hats. Maybe we give away a jersey, things like that. And I mean, we're one big family is the thing.
Absolutely. Matt said before we hop off here, he's team trade up for Garrett Wilson or Burks. Not in a million years. Won't have him, Matt. I mean, I'm not going to say it wouldn't be cool. Also, I think Jeff had mentioned something earlier, but I believe the chat is off now. But guys, thank you so much for joining. We've always asked people this, if you haven't joined the No Horsing Around family, make sure to like, share, and most importantly, just subscribe. You get the latest things that we do. We put a lot of content out for you guys. We really appreciate each and every one of your interactions, your insights. The most exciting part for us is when you guys do get in the chat and you as a community just kind of come together and talk. You may agree, you may disagree. I've always said this in the past, call us out if you don't agree with us. Hey, we'll give you a shout out, man. Like we'll give you your just due. This is for you. This is to use your voice. And this one was fun, and Steven and I will be back with you. We're going to get on a regular schedule, hopefully, and we'll try to do this duo thing. I miss doing it, and it's really fun. But until then, you'll always see one of us on there kind of hopping in, and we'll have some draft talk coming up. But I'd like to say, I love you. Pretty sure Steven loves you. And we're out, man.
See you guys.
See ya.